The poet, WB Yeats. The place, County Galway. The time, the first quarter of this century. The trees are in their autumn beauty, the woodland paths are dry. Under the October twilight, the water mirrors a still sky. Upon the brimming water, among the stones, are 59 swans. The 19th autumn has come upon me since I first made my count. I saw, before I had well finished, all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings. Coole Park, an estate that once belonged to the Gregory family in the west of Ireland. If you just say the west to somebody in Ireland, you conjure up a whole world immediately. A windswept seaboard, solitary hills, monastic ruins, Norman keeps, stone ditches, turf stacks. Still partly Irish-speaking, still the home of traditional music and traditional stories. It's a country that's original to our conception of ourselves as imaginative and Gaelic and deeply rooted. A country that the young WB Yeats turned to in the 1890s when he set out to found a new Irish literature. This world fed the longings and hopes in the young poet. And this world you can still sense in all its lovely potency here in the woods of Coole. Yet in the garden of Coole Park we can sense another Ireland that existed above and beyond the Ireland of Gaelic tradition. This was Anglo-Ireland, the Ireland of the Protestant ascendancy, the country of the walled garden, the echo, the domain, the hard-riding country gentleman. It was this Ireland that Yeats related to most naturally by birth and by upbringing. And it was here, under the benign influence of Lady Augusta Gregory, the owner of this place, its presiding genius, it was here that Yeats conceived the idea of bringing together these two Irelands into one image. He would do it by creating a new literature that both sides could assent to and both sides could be proud of. Yeats came to Coole first in 1896 and fell under the spell of the place so much that he became a permanent fixture about the house. The maids got used to hearing him crooning his poetry in the bedroom, and they got used to carrying him hot soup and hot drinks and generally cosseting him. For the next 20 years, Coole was Yeats's summer home, and it was something else. It was a standard of excellence for him, because there was something exemplary, Yeats thought, about the way Lady Gregory wasn't just a landlord, but a writer and also a hostess to talent. Not only Yeats came here, but many other writers associated with the revival. And at Coole, the idea of the Abbey Theatre sprang. Here came poets and playwrights and public figures. Synge, O'Casey, Shaw, Douglas Hyde. And they carved their names on this tree here, which has since been known as the autograph tree. At Coole, indeed, Yeats's feelings for the aristocratic way of life grew warm. And it was here that he began to conceive of himself as a kind of courtier poet attached to a noble house. An ancient bridge and a more ancient tower, a farmhouse that is sheltered by its wall, an acre of stony ground where the symbolic rose can break in flower. Old ragged elms, old thorns innumerable, the sound of the rain or sound of every wind that blows. The stilted water hen crossing the stream again, scared by the splashing of a dozen cows. Yeats's aspiration to fill a high, stern, aristocratic role eventually led him to acquire a noble house of his own. In his early 50s, he purchased this Norman keep, which he inclined to refer to at first as his castle, but he eventually settled down to calling it his tower. This tower, Thur Ballylee, the tower at Ballylee, was originally part of the Coole estates, and in 1916, Yeats purchased it as a summer house for himself and his new wife, partly, no doubt, to keep the new wife away from the old friend over at Coole. In fact, the tower was to fill a more symbolic than practical function in his life from then on. He never lived in it for more than a few months altogether, but it did become a symbol in his poetry, a symbol of solitude, survival, tragic vision. His mood darkened as he grew older, and even the verse he wrote for his wife to be cut into a stone on the wall of the tower ends with a certain sombre foreboding. I, the poet William Yeats, with old mill boards and sea-green slates, and smithy work from the Gort forge, restored this tower for my wife George. And may these characters remain when all is ruin once again. It was to be from the top of the tower during the Irish Civil War in the early 1920s that Yeats surveyed the destruction of his dream of an Ireland full of intellectual sweetness and artistic light. He wrote bitterly then, "We had fed the heart on fantasies, the heart's grown brutal from the fair." And in a more oracular and resonant couplet, he was to declare, "Man is in love and loves what vanishes. What more is there to say?" When Lady Gregory died in 1932, her house died with her. It was sold to a builder who demolished it, and Yeats wondered at the time whether what he called the subconscious drama that was my imaginative life had come to an end also. And standing here today, where the house itself used to stand, it's impossible not to recall Yeats's lines where he envisaged all this destruction. Here, scholar, traveller, poet, take your stand, when all those rooms and passages are gone, when nettles wave upon a shapeless mound, and saplings root among the broken stone, and dedicate, eyes bent upon the ground, back turned upon the brightness of the sun, and all the sensuality of the shade, a moment's memory to that laurelled head. Those lines come at the end of Yeats's poem, Coole Park, 1929. But the poem, The Wild Swans at Coole, is in a quieter note, and is perhaps his best known lyric to have been inspired by Coole Park. Written as he turned 50, about 20 years after his first visit, it's a perfect lyric on the classical theme of time and change. The scenery of the poem may be local, but the poem itself has eluded the place that generated it, and has changed the place into a state of mind. The trees are in their autumn beauty, the woodland paths are dry. Under the October twilight, the water mirrors a still sky. Upon the brimming water, among the stones, are 59 swans. The 19th autumn has come upon me since I first made my count. I saw, before I had well finished, all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings. I have looked upon those brilliant creatures, and now my heart is sore. All's changed since I, hearing at twilight the first time on this shore, the bell beat of their wings above my head, trod with a lighter tread. Unwearied still, lover by lover, they paddle in the cold, companionable streams or climb the air. Their hearts have not grown old. Passion or conquest, wander where they will, attend upon them still. But now they drift on the still water, mysterious, beautiful. Among what rushes will they build? By what lake's edge or pool delight men's eyes when I awake some day to find they have flown away?